All right, good evening. I believe we are live for the Gita Live session 7 today, where the topic is dealing with grief and anger. We are live to you from Hong Kong today
Yes.
with Swamini Supriyananda ji, with whom we will be discussing the topic of grief and anger, which is something that touches all our lives, whether we like it or not. And it's definitely something important to be aware of, address, manage,
Yes.
share, and
We are emotional beings.
definitely. And yes,
Okay.
so I'll just maybe give a brief introduction. My name is Harshal, and I'll be the moderator, not as an expert, but as a learner of the topic. And I think we can maybe begin.
Yeah, sure.
And I think a good way.
People know me already.
Perfect. So I think a good way to begin would be maybe as a starter to help us understand how does the Bhagavad Gita define or describe or frame grief and anger.
So actually, both words come up in the second chapter itself, where the word Arjuna describes his grief in all of the first chapter, but Krishna says to give it up, which is pretty much the first thing Krishna says, that do not grieve. And we're to understand that it's not a absolute. Do not grieve doesn't mean like you're never ever allowed to grieve. But the idea being that there should definitely be a cap on it. So how does it define it rather is, so I've just said that it introduces it straight away. Grief is introduced straight away. And then later on, in terms of how to master ourselves, in chapter 2 itself, anger comes up as something that we definitely need to be able not to give into. So defined, grief isn't actually quite defined, but in a way, Krishna defines it as a weakness that we give into, which most people wouldn't see grief as a weakness. I think in the world of psychology, grief would be described as when we experience loss. The natural emotion we feel would be grief. But in the Gita, it's like, yes, it's a natural reaction to loss, but all natural reactions is just a signal, right? Like, so fear, it's a signal to me, there's a threat. If I assess the situation, no threat, no need. Now that emotion is no longer needed. And even if there is a threat, I already know the emotion is no longer needed. And so same with grief. It's told me what I need to know, and now it's no longer needed. But to dwell in it is seen as the mind losing strength. Because the more we dwell on grief, the weaker we actually do feel. And in the Gita, anger is actually very easily defined. Puja Gurudev Swami Chinmaya used to say it often. When desire is obstructed, we feel anger. So those are the two ways they kind of explained or described or indicated.
Okay, and I think building from that, as you said that, one of the things was Krishna ji looks at it as a weakness. You mentioned that, the difference between how the Bhagavad Gita frames it and how it's psychologically framed. You briefly touched upon that it is important to address it. So perhaps you could maybe expand on that. Why is it important to address it earlier on rather than let the let the time pass and we'll deal
Yeah.
with it, or oh yeah, I feel grief about XYZ, and it's sad, but I'll move on. Why is it important we go beyond that and introspect?
So in the Gita, the first verse is that wise men don't grieve. Ashochanan Vashochastvan is the very first verse. And the reason given is because katasunyas katasunsjas is that everything in this world is either gone or going, which is a poetic way of saying um, everything will come to an end. And what is grief? That we've lost something. But if it's inevitable that it's going to come to an end, you're going to lose it. And so there's no point of grieving about that which is going to eventually happen. Now, this is very logical. Emotionally, we won't be able to use the same logic. Emotionally, when I have it and it's gone, I feel grief. And so the Gita is very clear that, sure, the mind is operating to feel the emotion, but we have a higher capacity of thinking, which is above the mind and above the emotion. And so, kind of like upgrade or lift from thinking emotionally to thinking rationally and intelligently. And so that's why you have to catch it. Because if I'm thinking emotionally and I'm grieving and I'm grieving and I'm grieving and I'm grieving, and evidence is there because chapter 1 is like 40 verses of just Arjuna whining about how horrible life is. So if we allow grief, it just keeps going and keep going and keep going. And it doesn't even have to be like Arjuna's fighting a war and he has reason to grieve. Sometimes it's like it was raining and then complaining and complaining and complaining and complaining about just that it's raining. And a whole hour you can just be complaining. And sure, that's not full-grown grief, but what basically the point is that emotion will just keep going. And so you need to lift thinking.
Catch it.
Mm.
Okay, that's nice. I like how you said catch it. I think it's a good self-regulation tool that you can use to quickly address it in the moment when one catches themselves in the midst of grief or feeling it. And we'll get to managing that later on uh,
Yeah.
into it. You spoke about anger obstructed
Yes.
and
Catching anger.
catching anger and
Yeah.
how
I
how
haven't spoken about
you
catching
mentioned.
anger. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
sorry,
Okay, so
please.
why would we want to catch anger? Well, anger is very clearly said in the Gita to be one of the gateways to hell. And the word hell is used as hell. And so, how to get to hell? Anger. And when we are in anger, like when it's full-blown anger, we are in hell. It's not that we have to die to go to hell. Anger itself is hell. And sometimes people have asked me, like, what do you think hell is? And I'm like, I don't have to think or imagine. Like, imagine a whole room of like 100 people who are all really angry. Hell. Uh, so- and we're experiencing it all the time. Yeah. So why would we want to catch anger? Because we don't want to go to hell. And it's us sending ourselves there whenever we get angry. But if we can catch it and we can calm ourselves down, we can stay in maybe not heaven exactly, but closer to heaven.
Going maybe a few steps before anger, maybe speaking a little bit about the chain of desire and desire not being fulfilled,
Mm,
and then that leading to anger, and then of course attachment
mm,
as the overarching theme,
mm.
and then what I just mentioned was the breakdown of that. Why is it important, or perhaps you can maybe speak a little bit about that? Because I think personally for me, before I started reading the Bhagavad Gita, there was just emotions and things happening, and we are aware that, yeah, we want this to happen, or I really really wish I made the 6:47 a.m. bus, but I missed it. Now I have to take the MTR and walk extra steps or whatever. But in that moment, I think, when for me I understood that there was a desire for something, it was not met, it led me to being a little bit angry, or angry in cases, and then understanding, why was I so attached to something like that.
Mm.
What leads to that, if not understanding it in the first place? And a bit from you about that aspect of what Krishna ji talks to Arjuna about.
What leads to the desire, or what leads to the desire becoming anger?
What leads to us being attached to something, but then linking that to the whole chain of
What makes us attached to something? Ah, okay. So here we can just use the very word attachment, right? Literally means bringing two things together. Actually, I might use the phone as an example here. I do this often, so some of y'all might have seen me. So I would use the example of email, but since this is very physical, it helps. So how many things?
Two things.
Two things, right? And then we click it on, and then we see it as?
One thing.
Yeah. But how many things are there really?
Two things.
Two things.
It's a game changer.
It's a game changer. So this is attachment. Attachment is actually there's two things and they separate from each other. But we suddenly see that thing and we have attached to it some value, some sentiment, some status. We've attached to it something. So if we look at a commercial product like a Chanel or a Gucci or something, probably the cost of making that item, whatever. Okay, let's say $50. I have no sense of money, so just go along with me. And then you put that logo of Chanel on it, and now you're selling it for 500. And so what have we attached? Status or a story, literally just a name. And then that name has heritage. But the bag in itself didn't have all of that. It's the logo that you attached to the bag that now gave it this inflated value. And then same with like this Dubai chocolate. Do you know when they first gave me this Dubai chocolate to taste, my reaction was, this is not chocolate, it's nuts. Like, where's the chocolate? The chocolate's so thin, but now it's become this status or this fashion or this trend or this, and what's attached? All that. Fashion, trend, being in vogue. And then let's say there's a piece of jewelry. And then what do I attach to it? Just whatever sentiment. Somebody dear gave it to me. Maybe it's a family heirloom. It was, a dark period of my life, and I held on to that. And it gave me security or comfort. And so there's the piece of jewelry, and then there's what I've attached to it, right? So now with objects, that's super clear, but we do it with people too. Here's so-and-so. It might be family member, it might be romantic interest, it might be a business partner, and then I attach value. And the value that I attach could be that they make my life easier. Right? If they're there, I don't have to do XYZ. They'll take care of it. I didn't attach love, huh? What I've attached? Convenience, comfort. Yeah. Or sometimes what I've attached is their opinion of me is what makes me worthy. And that's a dangerous thing to attach to someone, but we do that. We do that with bosses and parents and even with peers. So there's actually just a person, and then there's my sense of value, and then I've attached the two.
And then from that attachment, you spoke a little bit about we have certain attachments to the person, and then if something maybe doesn't go our way, then how does that attachment lead to the grief and the anger?
So whenever there's an attachment, the value I've attached to it is usually what I desire. Yeah. And so then you go back to the same formula of desire obstructed. And so let's say this person's opinion of me determines my value, and then now they're being disapproving. But no, you're supposed to approve of me so I can feel better about myself, and how dare you disapprove of me? And then you're supposed to love me. You're supposed to be standing by me. And then it goes into that whole avalanche of emotions. But it will come back to it's what I desire, because what I've attached more often than not is things that I've desired. Sometimes what I attach is fear. Mm,
You mentioned avalanche of emotions.
yeah.
So how can we use our intellect, our buddhi, to overcome that surge of emotions that leads to the anger and grief? And I guess this is me, foraying into the topic of intellect and
Yeah,
getting into that part of the deeper part of the Bhagavad Gita.
you're right. So, your Gurudev used to use this word called armchair philosophy, which basically means we can talk very profound while we're sitting like this, but our chairs don't have arms. Um, but the benefit of any philosophy is actually when you can use it, like the Gita, on the battlefield, or the Gita says dharma kshetre, which translates to wherever we're working. Dharma kshetra is wherever we are performing our duties. So that's our family duties, our work duties, our any duties. So there's steps to how to do this. I'm answering your question. Step number one is always we are more intelligent in hindsight. Right? When we've seen how things have played out, it's easier to understand. I thought this, I did this, they reacted this way to what I said, because either they felt threatened, or they felt pressured, or they felt understood, and sometimes I won't know why they've reacted. I just know I thought this, I said this, they reacted. Yeah. So first step is always in my battlefield, in my dharma kshetra. The exercise is called introspection. And you can, sometimes they'll say do it every day at night, but actually you can do it at any point. Right? So let's say you and I just had this humongous fight.
My God.
Okay, I had a humongous fight with someone else.
Thank you.
Then I sit and I think, what was I thinking that led me to say whatever it is I said? So I identify my desire, my fear, my jealousy, which would have led me to say whatever. And then I see how you reacted to it. And I'm not necessarily judging you when I'm seeing how you reacted to it. I'm judging how my actions can potentially bring out this reaction in someone. Yeah. And so is that the best action to have? Because is that the reaction I want? So this is in hindsight, right? I introspect in hindsight. What did I do? Why did I do it? The why I did it is very important. Now, if I do this often enough, while we're talking, I'll have, yes, alarm bells will start ringing in my head that I am feeling this. And so there's a high chance I'm going to say something insulting or controversial or insensitive or petty or uh, in whichever one. And then sometimes I'm able to catch it, and sometimes I'm not able to catch it. Sometimes, even though I can see it happening, the momentum is so strong. But sometimes, when it's not that charged, I'm actually able to reel it in. And then maybe there'll be this awkward moment of I don't know what to say because I'm not saying that. Then I go back to introspect. What could I have said instead? So next time it happens, I already have alternatives of what to say.
Amazing. So that brings me into the next part. We spoke about what anger or grief is. We've spoken about the impact of it on us, what it
Mm.
can cause. We broke down the aspects of attachment, desire, and going into the managing part. You mentioned that I think it's beautiful to know, obviously, that when you've thought, why did I do this? And the next time it happens, your brain is calculating, okay, I'm feeling a surge of X emotion, so I should probably change course and give reaction B instead of reaction A, so
Mm.
I can get back the reaction that's serving to the conversation
Yeah,
and fruitful to the conversation to move forward.
yeah.
But then there's those initial 90 seconds. And
Where you may not catch it.
and before the initial 90 seconds, there's also, of course, we can maybe after this question speak about what we can do in the moment where we haven't thought about catching it yet, but we're thinking about what we can do if it's about to go south. So practices
Mhm.
before going into conversation, or of course, sometimes you can't plan a conversation. You may be at the office with your boss and she or he pulls you into a meeting. But I think bringing it back the first 90 seconds, even though we know that why did we do this? Last time I spoke to my boss, XYZ happened. I didn't react in the nice way. Next time I go in, I'm going to speak structured, break it down, tell
Mm.
them the impact on me as opposed to I feel this way. We're all very prepared, but in the moment, those first 90 seconds, suddenly the boss says something that they didn't say last time.
Yeah.
And then, and this could be a happy conversation too. It doesn't have to be, my words made it sound very negative, but it could be you could be going in for happy news A, but you get happy news B.
Mm.
What can one do to identify or maybe, the lack of a better word, hone that skill,
Mm.
intellectually speaking?
Yeah. So I'll give you something practical first.
Amazing.
Breathe. And it sounds so simple, but it really is incredibly powerful.
Now we take 60 seconds to just like quick box breathing, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. That's what I personally use. It helps quite a bit.
Yeah,
I think that's what the Navy or the military uses. They call it box breathing.
yeah, box breathing is very
4, 4,
effective.
4.
But if you're having to listen to a conversation, then counting out the breath in your head won't help.
And also your boss might think you've gone crazy.
Yeah. So just slow, deep, where it's now, like what you just did now, of course, you did it so that people knew you were taking a deep breath in, but so silent that nobody even knows you're doing it. But just completely slow down your breath and make it really deep, really slow, really long, and gentle, slow out again. And so you can actually still be talking while doing it. Well, maybe not talking, but you can be listening while still breathing. Um, so I guess like the first sign of any kind of emotion, breathe. Very, very consciously, deliberately. And then the Gita, and Gita doesn't focus so much on breath, only in chapter 6 when it's talking about meditation. Yeah. Um, Breath we see in what we call prakarana granthas, which are beginner's text. Mm. Gita talks about b- being aware, like staying in awareness. So maybe the best example I can give, and in Hong Kong, we don't drive as much, but like London, America, Australia, they pretty much everyone has to drive. Um, so if you drive, you have to be aware of so many things at the same time. Okay. So your hands on the steering wheel, you're aware of the speed of your car, you're aware of the car in front of you, the car behind you, you're aware of the traffic light. You also aware, like if, especially if you're driving in Chamsachue in Hong Kong or somewhere like Bombay, you're aware of the cow, of the people, of
So many blind spots in Bombay.
like you watching, because they could come in front of you at any point, right? America, Australia, that doesn't happen, but here it happens all the time. Yeah. Although people do cut it in front when you're driving, even in any country. And so, okay, so what am I saying? You were aware of so many things at the same time. Um, and driving's just a really easy example, but there's so many jobs where we have to be aware of many things at the same time. Yeah. So in a conversation, whether it be with boss or it can be an emotionally charged conversation with a friend or a family member,
Management guard, the taxi driver,
yeah, anyone.
anyone.
The awareness is the person, their reactions, their potential reactions, just like when you're driving. This person could cut in, the traffic light could change, the person in front of me could slow down. All that awareness is there of potential things that could be happening. Then I'm also aware of what I'm feeling internally, which I'm not saying out aloud. Yeah. But potentially, people can read my body language. Yeah. Because if I'm suddenly all defensive, I'm not saying anything, but chances are my body language has changed.
Widening of the eyes, flaring of the
Yeah,
nostrils, hand
all of
movement.
that, all of that, all of that. And then, so I'm aware of the other person, I'm aware of what's going on inside, and I'm very aware of the delivery of what I'm saying outside. And so all of it has to get managed. Inside has to get managed. Whatever has to be told, shut up, should shut up. Whatever has to be focused on, should be focused on. And with the other person, then we don't shut them up. Or sometimes we do need to. But, whatever, with, as kindly and as gently as we can to do what is necessary to best manage that situation. I'm going to say a very big, what's the word? Hint, necessity, a very big do. Yeah, usually people focuses on the don'ts, but a very big do is in this managing of the other person, myself, the inside, the outside. When I'm living in awareness, what's my desire has to take backseat.
Game changer.
What's best for both me and them should come in the front. We do the opposite. What I want comes in the front, and how to get what I want usually comes in the front. Making all the decisions based on that as my outcome. That's not the basis for which we should be making decisions. Gita is very clear. Basis for which we should be making decision is the word is used, Shreyas. Have you heard the word? No.
I was reading the English translation and I did not catch the Sanskrit word. I do have a question after you finish that thought.
Shreya says, what is the higher good? In fact, Arjuna, when he asked, Krishna, please guide me, he uses the word, tell me what is Shreyas. And so the whole Gita is advice on working towards what is higher good. What I want is usually not the highest good. It's usually just pleasure seeking. We do want higher good, but we have to remind ourselves that that's what we want. Otherwise, we give in to pleasure.
And taking from that, I think a question that popped in my mind immediately was, which maybe many of you over here or at home think, why should we let it go? Or sometimes in the moment, like small things.
Yeah,
Forget boss, forget your partner or whatever. You're in the taxi and then she or he has dropped you 20 steps away from your destination, and then we're like, oh my God, we got in a cab, we didn't take the MTR or the bus for a reason. Can you go ahead? And especially in Hong Kong, they very politely tell you to get off and they're not going to go ahead. Then one might think,
I've
the
never noticed that.
I mean, I'll be very honest. I think it used to bother me like a couple of years ago. It stopped, and and it's amazing because I take the MTR, so no one speaks to me anymore. So it's awesome. No one's telling me to go walk ahead 20 steps. I'm more of an MTR person, but in that moment,
Me too.
people can,
MTR, for those of you who don't live in Hong Kong, is
yes.
our train, our metro, tube.
And so you might get upset in the moment that why, and then you get up, and then someone's like, "Why
Yeah.
did you do that? I had to walk 20 steps. I took the taxi to be in AC, and now I'm sweating, and I'm supposed to go to a party, and so why should they let it go in that moment?"
Why should we let it go?
I think that's a pretty key question.
Okay. There's that saying that escalated quickly. I'm going to escalate quickly. Recently, this couple who's going through a divorce, the divorce is probably going to go through. And I met each of them separately. And interestingly, they both said to me, I know you're going to say, try and make it work, but, and then they said whatever it is that is causing them heartache. And also, what's interesting here is they've both done therapy, and the therapist have actually guided them to separate, which is unethical for a therapist. You may not see this connection. Why do we let it go? Because that's where we could end up with everything broken. If we hold on to all the small things, we're breaking big things. And it won't just be marriage. It will be all important relationships. There's so many kids who stop talking to their parents, or siblings who stop talking to their siblings, and people who have been friends for 20 years, 25 years, and then suddenly it goes so sour. And so if you're asking me, why should I learn to let things go? Because all of it's small. Like all of it is small. The only important thing is I'm not this body. I'm infinite love, but I let that go. And then I hold on to body, and I hold on to all the small things this personality wants. And then we're just creating more and more heartache for ourselves and the world around us.
So we can say that forgiveness plays a role in resolving anger and grief in one.
Yeah, but even before it gets to forgiveness, I mean, forgiveness is I've already hurt so much. Like, it's all these small things, like taxi driver dropped you 20 steps. Like, it shouldn't have to be to the level of forgiveness. It should be the level of like, such is life. It's awesome that I have a healthy body that can walk, and I'll be in AC in 20 steps.
Looking at our troubles as blessings.
Or seeing things in perspective, right? Like, it's a small thing. But when we don't see it as a small thing, we'll allow it to become big in our heads. There's a really nice story. I know you want to ask me the next
Oh
question, but
no.
I'm going to tell you all this analogy. This young man went to a saint asking, like, I have so much anger, I have so much that's built up over the years, and then you tell me how to cope with it. And so he did this really simple thing, and he took a jar of salt, and he told him to put the teaspoon of salt in the water and then drink. Mm. And so, of course, that's a very salty glass of water then, right? And then he took the young man to the back of the ashram where there was this big pond. And he said, put a teaspoon of salt in the pond. Mm. And then drink. Of course, we would never drink because, we don't know if that's clean or not. But let's just say they're up in the Himalayas where all the water's clean. Is it salty? From 1 teaspoon of salt in this whole massive pond, will it be salty?
All the algae, maybe.
But not from the teaspoon of salt. Yeah. And so if our mind is going to be like the cup, then all these small things become very loud, potent, sour, salty, whatever. But if we keep our mind bigger, we remember that these are all small, small things. It doesn't build up. So, yes, forgiveness is going to be very important. But what I'm actually saying is that it's so small, it doesn't even need to be forgiving.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier that it's all these small, small, small things. So what would you say to the youth of today, especially in communicating when they might feel a certain way? Your recommendation of doing it immediately, the way to do it, being honest about it, and discussing it, whether it's your boss or your partner or your mom or dad or your best friend.
That's a very modern psychology way of doing it, talking about what you're feeling. But actually, you don't. You just need to resolve it within yourself.
That's deep.
Like, do I really need to tell you you are upsetting me? Please don't talk to me like that. I just need to figure out within myself that I'm fine. You can talk to however you want to. I am this, and I'm fine. It's like I can't tell the wind to stop blowing. I'm feeling cold. Just put on a jacket. Like other people are going to do what other people have to do. And I know in modern psychology now, it's about talking about feelings. And I was a psychologist, I'm telling you. Yeah. It's like fix your own mind. You can't fix the rest of the world. Mm. And now today, with everything being PC and are we just making each other more and more delicate? No, don't talk. Talk to yourself. Tell yourself you're stronger than this, you're bigger than this, you're more resilient than this, you're more kind than this, you're more forgiving than this, you're more courageous than this.
Can we record that to make it our ringtone?
Yeah, you can. I am bigger than this problem. Squish it. Don't it? You don't have to talk about it and make the problem big.
I think something going, speaking to ourselves, grief and anger relating to loss of a loved one. Common to, obviously you rely on maybe your circle of your people, your
Mm,
friends, your family.
mm.
But there's times where in the moment of loss, I'm not going to say maybe one can't handle it, but we can't see that we can speak to someone. So we're talking to ourselves.
I mean, that's one time you can speak to somebody else. Like if we've both lost a family member or we've both lost a good friend, we can definitely remember them. We can talk about missing them.
but processing it when if someone's really in hurt and not in that
Yeah.
positive mind frame to share stories or, not in that mood to be in that gathering where people are there to honor the person and share memories, share stories.
What do we do, or what do
What
they do?
what should one do in that moment when they
If
are,
you, that person,
if you're that person, if let's say I cannot process
grieve.
grief.
So there's a period where it's fine. And usually in our culture, we have this the first year of when you've lost someone. And so you don't go to parties, you don't go to weddings, so you don't celebrate Diwali, you don't, and it's socially acceptable for that 1 year because it's normal. We will grieve people we love when we lose them. And then after that, we are expected to start picking up momentum and being responsible and being responsive. And the thing here too, like it's normal to grieve when we've lost. But what are we grieving is what I need to think about. Am I grieving that I loved this person and I've lost them? Because that 1 year is enough. Or what we grieving they made my life easy and now nobody's there to make my life easy? Are we grieving they were the one person that made me feel special and now I don't feel special? They were the one that provided for me and now I have to work hard to provide for myself. What am I grieving? Yeah. Because love isn't grieved. Because love isn't lost. So we will miss the person when they're not there. But if I truly love, I'll still love them and I'll still have that love. I don't have their physical presence anymore, but I still have that love. Both my love that I felt for them and their love that they felt for me is still here within me, within my heart. I haven't lost that. Yeah. So what am I grieving? And then whatever it is I'm grieving is a desire. And then all the whole Gita is about letting that desire go. So for the first year, it's fine. Emotions comes, emotions goes, we miss. After that, what are you grieving? Bit harsh, sorry.
No, I'm just giving it a couple of seconds for it to sink in. And
Yeah.
I think it's about 45 minutes in, a lot of questions and, you
Mm.
know, lots of things to wisdom to ponder upon. So I think it's good to take a second
Yeah.
because, I mean, at the end of the day, one would hope when someone passes, you love that person. And when you love that person, it's actually quite beautiful in nature. You ask yourself, why are we grieving? And, I think that reminds me of when my my grandfather on my dad's side, he passed away about a year and a half ago, April last to last year, last to last April.
Mm.
And we were on the plane going to India, and he was stable but old age, and so we knew he wasn't doing well. And then we were on the way to the airport, and then it happened, and naturally I was quite sad. And then we were on the plane, and my dad came to me, and I was I was a bit overwhelmed with everything. And my dad said, we must be happy because he lived a good life, and we loved him. And then starts, like you said, right? You're sharing good memories, positive memories. I was quite lucky. He would send me to India every year when I was growing up. So I
Mm.
think it's good to think, you know, in that moment where there's nothing wrong.
Mm.
He passed away. It's a natural process of life.
Yeah, death is not a bad thing.
He is he is still alive.
Love
Atma
is
is
still
there. The
alive.
love is still there.
Yeah.
So, it's just that craving of maybe hugging him or seeing him one last time. And
Yeah.
so what you said reminded me of that part. So I gave it a few seconds for everyone to sink in.
Yeah. And those are desires, and even when they're alive, we don't always get to fulfill those desires. So the love doesn't go.
Maybe a switch to a topic that,
Mm,
I mean, of course, that's a very important one because
mm.
I think the way I dealt with that, and I was 28 at the time, versus where I dealt with my nana a couple years before that when I was 21, 22. As time goes on, as you grow older,
Yeah, you
you,
get better at it.
you get better at it. You understand life more. You've seen more things. And
Yeah,
what our parents said was right. As you progress in life, you understand, you learn.
yeah.
But a topic that I think resonates perhaps with the younger portion of the youth, which is social media.
Ah.
And that can, I hear some laughters in the crowd. Uh, that can, the comparison culture,
Ah,
we see things and maybe there's two age groups. As an example, you have the age group that's 17, 18, about to graduate high school, hopefully a bit more mature. Then you have the group that's maybe 14, 15, who are the siblings of the 18-year-olds. And then the 18-year-olds maybe have some sort of sense in them because they've seen their parents go through a time and work hard and whatnot. But the younger ones who are enjoying the life built, which is not wrong, but they don't have a sense. And then they're using social media and then they're comparing. And saying, I also want to do this. I also want to do that.
mm.
Regardless of whether they should or should not, regardless of whether they want to or they don't want to. So how can that lead to, and what's the impact of that in terms of the anger, the fear, or actually rather I should probably say desires first, because comparison culture, we see something, then maybe we want it.
Yeah, lots of desires from comparison culture. Um, yeah, there is a generation difference now between 18-year-olds and 14-year-olds. They even speak a whole new language.
Really? I haven't interacted with any
Yeah.
15-year-olds recently.
Yeah, what did they new words even? They're not even already existing words. Yeah? Um, okay. So how to help them with anger and desire before anger or grief because they're comparing.
I want to say desire first, but I think when you're in that age, you don't have the segmentation in your mind. So I think it's like you see something, you have a desire, suddenly it turns to fear of not having that desire. Next thing you know, you're angry you didn't get it. So I think to answer your
Mm,
question, I would perhaps focus on the source, which is the desire, because when we see something, we want it. But I think in that age,
how to tell them they don't really want it.
that's the one.
Yeah,
Or think, do you really want this?
yeah.
If your friends are doing X, Y, Z, are you sure you want to do that? Do you know the consequences of it? Are you making a sound decision? I think as I speak this, it might not sound very sound to ask a 15-year-old these questions.
Yeah. No, actually they able to understand at 15.
They're adults practically. I mean, in the US, you
Yeah.
get a license when you're 16 to drive, right? I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, they're adults.
So they are. So age doesn't equal maturity. And, interesting that you said 18-year-olds who have already seen parents go through things, but the 14-year-old hasn't. That's going to be every family will have a different story. And so there's going to be those who have seen more at 14 and those who have not seen anything yet at 14. And so definitely the more we endure, the more mature we become. And so rather than explaining things to them, I would recommend creating opportunities for them to endure. What does that mean? Yeah. Something like boot camp,
Yeah, I'm with you.
right? So if they go through boot camp, they're already more mature. Yeah. And if our tradition, it used to be Gurukul. and then you're already more mature. We used to have a teenage camp in India, like for that 1 week. We haven't had it for a long time, but it was phenomenal. We take these kids here from Hong Kong, and they only spent 1 week in India in this camp. And their parents would say they've come back changed because they saw so much more than this bubble of, and I'm not even saying that they saw poverty and now they're incredibly grateful. I remember this one kid, he came back and he was telling his mom, Mom, we've never enjoyed stars. Why haven't we ever enjoyed stars, Mom? And here we only ever looking at our phones and TVs, but we can just look at the stars. And of course, in Hong Kong, you can't. But it was phenomenal that they had even had that experience. And now, to somebody else, they would have had that experience all the time. And so their thinking would already be like that. So, what am I saying to these 14-year-olds? Instead of saying don't desire something, increase their scope of experiences where they have to work, where they have to endure, where they have to work with other people from other traditions, other socioeconomic groups of some other. And so broaden their thinking, and then they themselves will have maturity. Because what we want is for them to be mature and make good decisions, right? But you can't tell someone be mature. Mature has to come from experience. So give them opportunities to have those experiences.
I think that's something that we can tell the 18-year-olds to give to their younger siblings, younger peers, or even the parents of today.
Even tell the 14-year-olds to go and have experiences. Right? You can talk about when I traveled, saw this, experienced this, met these people, and that create the desire to want experiences.
I remember in 2019, I had joined a new job and there was plenty of cold calling. And my very first call, I had a very hard time. And it went on for about 20 minutes. And I think a few people were listening in because that's how we train in that job. And I got off the call and I was like, thank God this guy was so mean, so rude, didn't listen to me, what I wanted to share with him. And I remember my first boss in that company, I had a few. He says, good. The sooner you deal with this hard stuff, it gets easier later on. Because tomorrow, when you call a nice person, it's going to be a breeze. And then now you're not waiting for it because he was like, it's bound to happen at some point.
Yeah,
Because, I mean, in the case of life, you're doing life. So at
yeah,
some point, you're going to face something that's
difficult,
difficult, tough,
unpleasant. Yeah.
unpleasant, and I think that reminds me that I read somewhere hard times breed strong people,
Mm,
whereas easy times breed weak people.
yeah, delicate, delicate people.
Delicate. I knew I would get that choice of words as soon as I said it. Good. We're about an hour in. I think maybe I can take some time to summarize a few things
Sure.
for everyone.
Yes, please.
That's okay.
Yes, please.
You can test my working memory, is it called? The short-term memory. So yeah, I mean, of course, that was what's the word? I was gonna say insightful, but I think there was a lot of realizations in the moment, uh, for me, and I'm sure for everyone over here, present online. Um, I think what I'll do is I'll share a couple of things that stood out to me personally. I think the first thing was don't be the cup, be the lake. So to remind everyone, in case you plugged in late, if you're focusing on the salted water, a spoon of salt put in a cup of water like this, then it might taste very salty. But if you put that same spoon of salt into a lake, it won't taste too salty because you think big, you expand your horizons, as they say, right? That's the first. I think the second, on the more initial topics, is of course not just when it comes to loss of someone, but in any scenario when you catch yourself in those first 90 seconds, 60 seconds, 10 seconds, the surge of emotions, maybe even then ask yourself why. Why do I want to say what I'm about to say when I know it's going to just upset the other person, or I know it's not going to serve
Mm,
the future of this conversation? And then I think a third thing, which I've probably been more in tune with now because I've just practiced it more, is breathing.
mm,
Earlier, I joked a bit about 4-4-4, but I mean, to anyone watching over here, I do use that quite often. I also
mm,
use 3-7-8, where you inhale for 3, hold for 7, exhale for 8. But I think just without complicating it, breathing is nice, slow, and steady because, I mean, psychologically and scientifically, it's shown that when you slow yourself down, you can actually think what's going on. And that's a tool for what I mentioned earlier about taking a second or two to reflect on, what am I gonna do next?
mm.
And yeah, I think those were the three things.
The
Um,
attachment.
Attachment is, I think it's a topic that can be very easily complicated,
Mm,
but it was nice that you showed us the phone in the case
mm,
because this is one thing. It's black, so I don't know if you can see it. You probably can because I'm wearing white, but this is, it looks like one thing, but in essence, it's two. So I think when it came to attachment, having looked at it in so many different ways, that's a much more simple analogy
mm.
that perhaps you could even use as a tool the next time you're thinking,
What am I attached to?
what am I attached to?
Mm,
And I think these are just a few tidbits that you can use in your daily life. And I think again, not just for the youth, but people often say there's no rule book for parents, there's no rule book for life. And I read this quote the other day where even your parents are living their first, they don't have a manual, right? So when they're
mm,
dealing with something, it's their first time dealing with something, whether it's their kid going to school or going to college or
mm.
maybe having their first walk or maybe having their first fight. Our parents don't know how to react to that. They've never done it before, unless they've been blessed with 2 or 3 kids before that. And so I think it's important to remember, not just in your parents' case, but when you speak to someone else, including your management guard or your friend or anyone, I think it's important to maybe remember, if I can say that, it's everyone's first time. Give them a break.
Technically, no, but yeah.
You know, maybe I just said that. I don't know about everyone else, but I thought of a few people where it's not their first time, and but I'm gonna let that go. And
We've lived many lives and we do have some innate memory from previous lives. But yes, this time around, we've come with a clean slate. So we experiencing it as though for the first time.
about to turn 30, it doesn't feel so clean.
Are
We're working on
there,
it.
are there questions online? Anybody has any questions? Have we asked? Anybody else here in the room have any more questions? Yes, Venus.
I'd like to ask a question. Um, I'm just wondering, is it possible to have a family, right? Whether it's like with parents or whether it's when you get married with, a husband and children, or just, whatever the family is at the moment, or if you're staying with your grandparents or whatever it is, and still be detached.
Is it possible to be living in the family and still be detached? Yes, it is possible. It's difficult, but possible. Not very difficult. Like I said, different personalities and different levels of maturity. The being attached is the minute we understand what we attached to, we already weaken it, the attachment. Yeah. And also, what I had found very useful is the more attached we are, the less we're able to love. The more we love, the more we're willing to let the other person be, which is being detached. That I found extremely inspiring because I wanted to love more than be attached. And so then detaching became easier because there was something I wanted, which was nicer, which is love. So can we live with the family and be detached? Yes.
Can I just ask one more question?
Sure.
It's also about attachment. So it's just talking about people, attachment with regard to people then, and then attachment with regard to job, like working. So if we're not attached to a job, can we still be successful in it, do you think? Like on a day-to-day basis? Because if we're attached, then we, know that we've got to do our performance very well every day. But say if we're not attached, we come in, we're like, oh, we're more closer towards God and love, that kind of. Like not
Her
towards
question is,
materialistic stuff,
yeah,
like
because they can't hear you, I'm repeating it. Huh? No, the people online. The people online can't hear you, so I'm repeating your
We have the
question.
mic, so it'll go straight.
Her question was, if you're not attached to your job, can you still be good at it? Definitely. You don't have to be attached to something to be good at it. In fact, I think there's this very well-known story of that tennis player. Is it Agassi? Is his name? A very famous one. And he won Wimbledon and he won, I think, the Grand Slam. And he didn't like playing tennis.
He said that
Yeah, he said
in
that.
an interview?
In a whole book,
In his book?
in many books, in many interviews. So can you be good at something even if you're not attached to it? For sure. And not just him, right? So many people who are working, like maybe their hobby doesn't pay the bills. And so what they love is singing or working with kids or art and that's their passion. But their job is banking or dentist or whatever their job is. And so the job's not their greatest attachment, but they do extremely well at it. We have different types of intelligence, and we can definitely use our intelligence. And in fact, I think when you're not attached to it, sometimes you're able to be more objective and more efficient. When we're too invested in it, our emotions sometimes cloud our thinking.
Detachment is love.
Not necessarily detachment is love, but the more attached you are, it's an obstacle in loving. Because attachment leads to desire. And so I want something from you. Whereas when I love, I want for you, not from you.
That's nice. Because I think earlier when you said the detachment and
Yeah.
love part, it was really nice, but I think it
Yeah.
was good to break that down.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rather than wanting from you, love is wanting for you to be happy, for you to be free, for you to be powerful, for you to be. And whereas I'm attached to you, you have to love me. Don't look at anyone else. Smile at me.
Love you a lot, Swamini ji.
Any questions? No. Shall we wind up?
Let's find out.
Thank you all for making the time and joining us. And thank you, Harshal,
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
for hosting this.
Really enjoyed it.
There'll be another Gita Live next month. I think we're going back to America next month, so keep tuned in for the next talk. We didn't start with Shanti mantras, but we'll conclude with them. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamada Purnamida Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om